Every time you rush to explain yourself, you hand your power to the very person trying to take it from you. Today, I will reveal the unspoken power principle, hidden in the writings of Ralph Waldo Emerson, that shows why the most dangerous thing you can do is defend yourself. There's a strange tyranny in words. An accusation, a rumor, a question loaded with malice. These are snares set for the restless soul. The weak man lunges to clear his name, thinking he will regain his dignity. The wise man does not. For the moment you defend yourself, you stand upon the ground chosen by your adversary. You become a player in his theater, an actor in his script. But the one who refuses to play, he rewrites the play entirely. There is a hidden strength that most will never learn, a kind of authority so rare that when it is seen, it feels almost otherworldly. It is the strength to remain silent in the face of accusation, insult, or provocation. And yet, in a world where everyone is desperate to explain, to justify, to prove, the one who stays silent becomes the most dangerous person in the room. Think for a moment about the nature of defense. The instant you defend yourself, you are no longer standing on your own ground. You have stepped into the territory your accuser has chosen for you. They have built the stage, set the lights, written the script, and the moment you respond, you agree to play your part in their drama. Your innocence, your worth, your dignity now exists inside their frame, and they are free to twist it however they please. But the man or woman who refuses to step onto that stage rewrites the entire play. When you refuse to defend yourself, you deny your opponent the power to define you. You force them into a void where their words have nothing to cling to. And in that void, the echo of their attack begins to sound hollow even to the ears of the crowd. Silence is not weakness, it is a choice, a deliberate withdrawal from a game designed for your lot. You must understand this. Accusation is rarely about truth. It is about leverage. Those who attack you often know they cannot truly destroy you, so they try instead to pull you down to their level. The goal is to make you appear flustered, desperate, and reactive. And when you react, when you rush to explain yourself, you confirm their success. But silence is different. Silence does not bend to the tempo of your opponent. Silence has its own gravity. It forces others to lean in, to wonder, to doubt the certainty of what they thought they knew. The moment you refuse to engage, you create a kind of mystery, and mystery is the enemy of gossip. People's curiosity begins to turn from the accusation to why you are unmoved by it. That curiosity works in your favor. History is filled with those who understood this principle. Leaders who faced false charges, thinkers who endured ridicule, visionaries accused of madness, they did not exhaust themselves in rebuttal. They stood still while time did the work for them. Ralph Waldo Emerson himself carried this belief deep in his philosophy, that a man's character is his fortress, and if it is truly sound, it needs no defense. Now, does this mean you say nothing in every situation? No. But it does mean you choose your words not from fear, but from sovereignty. You speak when you wish to speak, not when you are dragged to speak. And often, the greatest show of strength is to say nothing at all, because here is the paradox. When you do not defend yourself, you force your accuser to overextend. They push harder, they speak longer, they begin to repeat themselves, and in doing so, they reveal more about their own motives than about you. Silence also shifts the power dynamic in ways most never see. When you remain silent, you position yourself as the observer, not the participant. Observers hold more control than actors. The actor is trapped in the scene. The observer sees the entire play. From the vantage of silence, you are able to notice the weaknesses in your opponent's position, the inconsistencies in their words, the cracks in their logic. And because you have not rushed to respond, you can strike, if you choose, with precision instead of desperation. It is not an easy discipline. The human ego screams for vindication. We want to be understood, to be believed, to be seen in the right light. But understand this, those who truly matter will judge you by the life you live, not the arguments you make. Your friends, your allies, those with discernment, they will not be swayed by the noise. And those who are swayed by the noise were never yours to lose. When you stand in silence, you begin to feel a shift inside yourself. You no longer carry the weight of needing to persuade the world of your worth. You begin to live from a place where the approval of the crowd is not the measure of your existence. You no longer dance to the tune of every critic. You move to the rhythm of your own convictions. And the truth is, this is not just about reputation. This is about self-mastery. It is about becoming the kind of person who cannot be baited, who cannot be rattled, who cannot be controlled through the strings of emotional reaction. When you reach this place, people begin to sense something different about you. They cannot quite put their finger on it, but they feel it. You are not like the others. You do not scramble for validation. You do not play the petty games. You are unshakable. And here lies the deepest layer of the lesson. Silence is not merely the absence of speech. It is the presence of power. It is the invisible throne upon which true authority sits. Those who understand this move through the world differently. They waste no breath on those who come to provoke. They know the truth does not need to be shouted. They know that time will always be a better witness than words could ever be. There is a truth so deep that it cannot be dressed in clever speeches or defended by endless explanations. It is the truth of who you are, woven into your choices, your habits, your way of walking through the world. And this truth has a strange quality. It does not need to be shouted. It does not beg to be believed. It simply exists, steady as the mountains, and over time, it speaks with a voice far louder than any argument ever could. When a man rushes to defend his reputation, he often forgets that the most powerful defense is not in his words, but in his life. Arguments can be twisted, facts can be bent, and speeches can be misquoted, but the living example of a person's character is much harder to corrupt. You can deny someone's claim, you can argue against their point, but you cannot erase the consistency of their actions over years. That becomes its own form of proof, a witness that cannot be bribed or coerced. Consider the difference between a man who tries to convince everyone he is honest and a man who simply lives honestly. The first is forever exhausting himself, chasing rumors, correcting misunderstandings, explaining motives. The second spends no time on such things, because those who know him already understand, and those who do not know him will learn in time. The power of this is profound. When your character speaks for you, you no longer need to enter every petty debate or respond to every whispered doubt. Your life becomes the argument, and it is an argument no one can outtalk. The problem is that we live in an age addicted to appearances. We feel the need to post, to reply, to make our case before the court of public opinion. But the court of public opinion is fickle. It will cheer you one day and mock you the next. If you hinge your worth on its verdict, you will forever be a slave to its changing moods. Character, on the other hand, is not subject to these tides. It is anchored in principle, and that anchor holds no matter how violent the storm becomes. This is why the wise do not waste their breath on every accusation. They know that time is the truest judge. Time reveals what words try to hide. Time exposes the hollow man and vindicates the steadfast. When you choose character over argument, you are placing your trust not in the noise of the moment, but in the slow, undeniable evidence that only a consistent life can provide. There is also a psychological advantage here, one that the impatient never understand. When you argue to defend yourself, you often end up on the defensive, not just in words, but in posture, in tone, in the very way you carry yourself. And when you are defensive, you appear smaller. But when you let your life speak, you keep your posture upright. You send a silent but unmistakable signal. I will not chase after your opinion of me. That signal is powerful. It unsettles those who seek to provoke you, and it inspires those who are watching you from the shadows. Think about the people you respect most in your own life. Are they the ones who spend their time convincing everyone they are worthy of respect? Or are they the ones who move quietly, consistently, living in such a way that their integrity is obvious without being announced? We all know the answer. We trust actions because actions cost something. Words are cheap. Anyone can declare themselves noble, but only the person willing to live with discipline, sacrifice, and consistency proves it. Ralph Waldo Emerson understood this deeply. His writings were filled with the idea that what you are thunders so loudly that people cannot hear what you say. If you are strong in character, it is felt before it is heard. If you are weak in character, no speech can hide it for long. That is why the energy spent in self-defense is often wasted. Better to spend that energy building a life that makes defense unnecessary. There is a certain dignity in this approach. A man who lives by it walks differently. He is not hurried by rumor or rattled by misunderstanding. he is not tempted to jump into every dispute. He has learned that the crowd will forget its accusations as quickly as it made them, but the record of his life will remain. That record is not written in headlines or public statements. It is written in the quiet choices, the unseen sacrifices, the way he treats people when no one is watching. And so the principle becomes clear. The truest way to answer doubt is to outlive it. The truest way to silence accusation is to keep walking in the opposite direction of the accusation until time itself proves it false. This is not passive. It is the most active thing you can do because it requires patience, resilience, and unwavering consistency. It demands that you choose the long game over the short burst of vindication. In the end, when you live in such a way that your actions are your voice, the need for rebuttals fades. You become unshakable because you know that truth has its own momentum. It does not require your constant pushing. It moves forward on its own, gathering strength until the day comes when even your enemies can no longer deny it. Power does not always reveal itself in force and volume or in grand gestures. Sometimes its most potent expression is in restraint, in the deliberate refusal to explain, to plead, or to beg for understanding. This is the inverse law of power. The harder you scramble to justify yourself, the smaller you appear, and the more you stand still, the greater you become in the eyes of others. It is a truth most people never realize because they have been conditioned to believe that silence equals weakness. From a young age, we are taught to defend ourselves against every accusation, to immediately correct every misunderstanding, to make sure no one carries a false opinion about us. But in doing so, we unknowingly drain our authority. The act of rushing to justify is an act of submission. It is a silent admission that the other person's judgment matters more than your own conviction. When you scramble to justify, you hand over your frame to someone else. You take the position of the defendant in a courtroom that they have built, under laws they have written, with a jury they have chosen. You may win the argument in words, but you lose the larger battle. You lose the larger battle. You lose the silent command that comes from knowing you answer to no one but your own principles. Think of the moments when you have seen a truly powerful person in action. Rarely are they frantic. Rarely do they feel the need to chase down every rumor or swat away every whisper. They understand something the rest of the world doesn't. Explanation lowers the mystique. It turns the observer into a supplicant, the judge into the judged. By refusing to explain, they maintain control of the conversation. Even when they say nothing at all, there is a magnetic quality to this refusal. When you do not rush to fill the air with explanations, people begin to lean in. They begin to question why you are so calm. They begin to suspect that maybe you know something they don't. And once that suspicion enters their mind, you have shifted the entire dynamic. They are now reacting to you instead of you reacting to them. This is why the most skilled negotiators, leaders, and strategists understand the power of the pause. In an argument, silence after an accusation is not empty. It says, without saying, your words do not require my attention. That message, delivered without a single sentence, often carries more weight than any speech you could prepare. Scrambling to justify is also dangerous because it forces you into a position where you reveal too much. In your eagerness to prove yourself right, you give away thoughts, strategies, or emotions that your opponent can later use against you. You open your hand and show all your cards, thinking it will convince them of your position, but all it does is arm them with more knowledge of your weaknesses. The refusal to explain keeps your hand hidden and your position secure. The inverse law of power works because it taps into an instinctive truth. People respect what they cannot easily access. Just as rare stones are valued because they cannot be picked up on every street corner, so too is authority valued when it is not constantly offered up for approval. If you constantly explain yourself, you become common. If you speak only when you choose and never out of desperation, you remain rare. It is not arrogance, it is discipline. To master this, you must become comfortable with being misunderstood. You must learn to resist the urge to correct every false perception. You must trust that time and your consistent actions will outlast the noise. Most people cannot bear this pressure. They fold quickly, thinking that silence will be seen as guilt, but the truth is the opposite. Desperation is seen as guilt, and composure is seen as confidence. When you stop scrambling to justify, you also reclaim your energy. You stop spending mental and emotional strength on people who are not truly interested in the truth, but are simply trying to provoke a reaction. You conserve that energy for building, for moving forward, for acting with intention instead of reacting with fear. This shift alone changes how others see you. You begin to move from the hunted to the hunter, from the questioned to the unquestionable. Those who master the inverse law of power understand that the world will always have opinions, and most of them will be wrong. But they also know that opinions fade while presence endures. A man who refuses to explain himself holds a certain gravitational pull. Others must orbit him, guessing at his thoughts, wondering at his silence, and slowly coming to respect the strength it takes to remain unmoved in a world that demands constant explanation. The crowd is the most unpredictable ruler a person can serve. It will lift you high with applause one day and bury you in jeers the next. Its memory is short, its judgment impulsive, and its loyalty almost non-existent. Yet, countless men and women live as if their entire worth depends on winning its approval. They bend their words to please it, twist their actions to fit its taste, and exhaust themselves trying to maintain favor with something that cannot be held. The truth is, the court of public opinion is not a court at all. It is a mob. It does not weigh evidence carefully, it does not deliberate in wisdom, and it certainly does not stay true to its verdict. It reacts, it shouts, it moves on. To anchor your worth in this shifting tide is to live as a slave to forces beyond your control. One day you are praised for the very thing you will be condemned for tomorrow. One day you are celebrated for speaking boldly, and the next you are attacked for not being silent. If you chase their approval, you will never stop running. When you detach from the court of public opinion, you begin to live from a deeper place. Your compass is no longer set by the shouts of the crowd, but by the steady pull of principle. You no longer ask, what will they think? Before you act, you ask, what is right? That shift changes everything. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of adjusting yourself to fit the mood of strangers who will forget your name within a week. The masses judge quickly because they have no stake in your life. Their verdict costs them nothing, so they pass it without care. And because it costs them nothing, they can change it without consequence. They can build you up today, tear you down tomorrow, and move on the day after that, never thinking of you again. Why then should their fleeting judgment carry the weight of your self-worth? If you live for the approval of the crowd, you will die by its rejection. You will become a performer in their theater, delivering lines you did not write, acting out scenes you did not choose. Every step you take will be measured against their applause. Every choice you make aimed at avoiding their boos. In the process, you will lose the one thing the crowd can never give you, your own authenticity. History shows us that every great leader, thinker, and visionary eventually had to stand apart from the crowd. They were misunderstood, mocked, criticized, and even hated in their time. Yet because they anchored themselves in principle instead of opinion, they endured. And in the long run, the same public that once rejected them often came to honor them. This is the irony. The crowd respects those who do not bow to it, even if it despises them in the moment. Detaching from the court of public opinion does not mean becoming indifferent to people. It means refusing to let their ever-changing verdict dictate your identity. It means valuing truth over popularity, integrity over image, and purpose over applause. It is the decision to build your life on bedrock instead of sand, to choose the slow and steady growth of self-respect over the quick and hollow rush of public praise. There is a weight that lifts from your shoulders when you stop seeking permission from the crowd to be who you are. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop chasing trends just to remain relevant. You stop apologizing for existing in a way that does not fit the current taste of the masses. Instead, you start building something lasting, something that will stand long after the crowd has moved on to its next distraction. The moment you detach, you begin to see the court of public opinion for what it truly is, a passing storm. It may roar, it may rage, it may even drench you for a season, but it will always move on. And when it does, you will still be standing, not because you bent to its winds, but because you built yourself on ground it could not touch. When you strip away the noise, the lesson becomes clear. True power does not come from explaining, defending, or chasing approval. It comes from standing rooted in who you are, allowing your silence, your character, and your unwavering principles to speak louder than any argument. The crowd will rise and fall, Critics will come and go, and rumors will fade like smoke in the wind, but the person who anchors themselves in truth remains unmoved. Detach from their verdict, refuse to fight on their terms, and you will discover the kind of authority that cannot be given, and therefore can never be taken.